A very good evening. Welcome to the decision of this program, the deep dive. Tonight, I want my fellow Jamaicans, wherever you're living in Jamaica or the diaspora, to take this deep dive with me so we can unearth some facts. Listen, in our country, Jamaica, which is our country, and I want us to be very mindful of that. Innuendos, opinions, and just sometimes propaganda rules instead of facts and data. On this program, I aim to unearth facts and to use data so you can make your own decisions when you hear innuendos, lies, distortions, and propaganda. So tonight I want to talk to you about the whole question of what's happening in our country crime-wise. Now, most of you know that Jamaica is a high crime country. There is no denying that. We can't deny the fact that our country is a violent country, and it is something that has to be remediated. Now, various administrations from both political parties have been grappling with this problem, some more so than others, and with mixed results. Insofar as the crime statistics are in Jamaica, I know that there are several factors that affect crime, and I want you to bear with me tonight because this program may be a little bit elongated. It's not that I seek to just talk a lot, but I have much to say that may be informative and may serve your purpose. So I want to bring this to your attention, these facts to your attention, because sometimes most of us don't have the time to look for these facts. So, when we hear the propaganda, we hear the talk, we process what we hear and we make decisions and we form opinions from the noise, not recognizing that a lot of time it's just noise. So I want to bring to you facts tonight. So please bear with me. I'm not a long talker and I do not intend to bore you with just keep yapping. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is the high homicide rate that's consistently plagued Jamaica. And of course, I've done a lot of work on this, blogging on this in writing, so that you can have the facts. Many of you know me over the years. I've been at this talking about the facts and challenging different administration to get it right and having the will and the gall to take the steps to remediate this problem because the country cannot make the necessary progress that it needs to make if we're still grappling with this extraordinarily high crime rate and the unaliving of so many of our people, many of whom are innocent. Now, let me be the first to say that I fundamentally believe in the right to life. Every single person has a right to life. Every single human being, the most cherished right they have is the right to life. I cannot make that any clearer. However, let me be really clear. When a person decide to unalive, to take the lives of other people, which nobody forces them to do, then it must be understood it must be understood.
All right, so there are over, session names now, 56 police.
Sorry, I won't even edit this out. But it must be understood that when a person decides to pick up a gun and to go and unalive somebody, to take someone's life, then that person gave up a lot of their rights. They gave up a lot of their individual rights. This is something lawmakers in Jamaica don't seem to understand. This is something that so-called human rights don't seem to understand. This is something that the so-called investigative agency INDECOM have completely lost sight of. But one of the things that we have to look at is the fact that Jamaicans have always love to see themselves on TV, love to hear themselves talk. Everybody wants to be in the limelight. So nobody's necessarily focused on the job that the task that they're given, even when the task is to remediate a particular problem, like INDECOM's existence was premised on the idea that because there were allegations of police fatal shooting impropriety, that it's their task to unearth evidence of that. It is their task. It is their responsibility. No one else's. It is the task of INDECOM to unearth through the investigation of every fatal shooting independently. It's called the Independent Department of Investigation. That's their task. People, I want you to follow me and make it make sense to me, or make it make sense to all of us. It is INDECOM's task to ferret out the information, to ferret through its own independent, unobstructed investigation, to show that there are improper use of force, of lethal force by the police. INDECOM's role is not to be on TV talking about its concern about the high rates of police fatal shootings. It's its task to show factually, evidentially, that police are in fact engaging in illicit use of force. But this is not what INDECOM does from its inception with the media hogging Terrence Williams. Now he's gone. I've written profusely, spoken profusely about where INDECOM was going wrong, where INDECOM was wrong. Not the formation of it, but where it was going wrong. And as I've said over the years and pointed out, they've had to change because of what we've been saying over here. They've had to change the way INDECOM does business. And the courts have ruled against the act to the point where they have to make significant changes. Well, we're not over here to pat ourselves on the back. We're over here to try to help the Jamaican people to get to a better place. But what INDECOM has done, it has joined the hoopla from Jamaicans for Justice, which is a foreign-funded group in our country that seems destined, that seems like it's on a path to disrupt and destabilize our country, Jamaicans for Justice, that receive funding, most of its funding, if not all of its funding, from overseas donors, including a billionaire in America that funds a lot of shadow organizations. Now, in a previous video, I asked people to look and ask those questions. We've asked Jamaicans for Justice to supply us with all the people who are, all the organizations who are donating to their efforts. They have not responded. Of course, it's on their website, some of the donors, and we've done our own digging and informed in a previous video as to who is funding Jamaicans for Justice. Now, what we don't know, and what the Jamaican people don't know, is we know the who. What we don't know is the why. I'm asking people to use their heads. Why would foreign individuals, billionaires, be funding a so-called human rights group in our country, not helping with our law enforcement effort? Law enforcement has to be the foundational principle, the foundation on which any democratic nation is going to be built, the rule of law. And Jamaica is getting from bad to worse, from bad to worse, from bad to worse when it comes to the rule of law. Our younger generation seem to think that the rules and the laws don't apply to them and they can do anything You see them every day, and you see the social media videos every day with them, even in their response to our law enforcement officers. That necessarily require force, because they feel like they should intervene to prevent the enforcement of laws. This has to stop. I'm gonna stop yapping. So Hugh Faulkner, the head of INDECOM, the so-called head, I think he's the figurehead of INDECOM, because I think it's Hamish Campbell, the British former cop, whom I wrote about, whom I did a deep dive on. Many of you could go back on the channel and look at past channels and see some of the things I had to say and some of the information that I've unearthed about Amish Campbell, who is one of the people at INDECOM yapping like mongrel dogs about stuff they don't know anything about. But let's just play for you Hugh Faulkner, head of INDECOM, talking about police fatal shooting, and I'll have some things to say. Now, bear with me, because I may stop the video, I may stop the audio from time to time and have something to say.
Fatal shootings, that's since the start of 2025, an average of nearly one per day. Joining us now to tell us why his organization is concerned, Commissioner of the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, Hugh Faulkner. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Morning, sir. Good morning, Neville.
I know you saw the officers just now.
Yes.
The program.
Yes.
I know you're proud of them.
Indeed, they have done well.
Yes.
Yes.
But there remain some concerns now.
Yes.
With regard to the statistics we just mentioned at the top. Talk to me a little bit about.
Right. So life is the most sacred gift that is accorded to a person, and our Constitution gives primacy to the right to life. It's against this background that INDECOM is concerned with the high rate of police fatal shootings. Since the start of the year, January 1, 2025, until yesterday, there were 59 fatal shootings. And when you do the comparative analysis, last year, 2024, the numbers didn't reach 50 until May.
I'm gonna stop this guy right here. First of all, Jamaica and Jamaicans. You can do all the comparative analysis you want, okay, when it comes to events like these. When you can look at 100 years of data, and you could do a comparative analysis, but a comparative analysis has nothing to do with the actual events that occur in each individual case where police officers are faced with life and death situations. I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. These are guys who are sitting in their offices looking at data supplied to them by the police department, because they don't have no way of gathering the data themselves. So they have to rely on the data that the police department provides publicly, as I am relying on law enforcement data in this episode of the deep dive. Now, I want you to understand that each case of police use of lethal force is based on that event only. As I've said in previous videos, lethal force use is not a continuum. Each individual case is an individual case that has to be looked at, that has to be assessed individually. So you can't use data from last year and say, hey, fewer people had died last year at the hands of the police than this year in the same period. I mean, you can say it, but it really means nothing. It means absolutely nothing, because people are behaving the way they are when they feel like behaving the way they want to. But I'll let him continue to show his idiocy.
Okay.
Wait, so okay, that's a very interesting. So the year on year is an interesting comparison when you look at the baseline.
Yes.
What are the contributing factors, right? Because sometimes we talk about these things and we need to look at attribution. Is it that there have been more scenarios where criminals are confronting police? What has changed or what has switched or what factors would have caused, you think, the numbers to rise? So what do you attribute it?
Well, that explanation would have to be given by the security forces.
Wait, what? Wait. So here's a guy who comes out using the data to make his point that police are killing too many people. But when he's correctly pressed on whether there's other attribution that would speak to the elevated numbers of lethalities, he says, well, then you have to go ask the commissioner of police. My people, you do not have to be a Harvard PhD to understand that this is cockamamie. You don't have to be a graduate of Stanford to recognize that this is balderdash. All you have to do is to be an independent thinker. That's it. He's using data over the last 2 years to make a point. And then when pressed as to attribution, as to reason why there may be an elevation this year, he says, well, you'd have to ask the commissioner of police for that. Propagandists. And you know what? Our tax dollars, Jamaican tax dollars, paying for this crap. This money that could be used to make Jamaica safer is paying for this. This is what taxpayer money is paying for, this level of propaganda, partisan propaganda. That's what it's paying for. It's incompetence of the highest order. Let him continue.
Themselves. But we use data to analyze and to come to our perspective. And if 189 persons were killed in 2024 in police fatal shootings
For the entire year.
For the entire year. This rate, there would have to be a drastic reduction for us to fall under that.
The amount of people who die at the hands of police in any given year is based solely on the people who are committing homicides. It's based solely on the people who are armed with weapons and committing violent crimes. It's not based on the police reaction. It's based on an elevated level of violence in our society. Now, there can be a conversation had, there can be a debate as to causation, but the reality is that the reasons are completely up to the perpetrators of crime, of violent crime. Nothing to do with police. One of the things I want to bring to your attention, and it's something that has been said recently, that's something that I've been saying a long time ago. One of the things that has happened, jails, all across Jamaica, jails, prisons are filled with people who got arrested with firearms. There are also many people who have been arrested with firearms, brought before the court, and the court have somehow exonerated them. Now, that's something that you could scratch your head about. I scratch my head about that because unless an officer has left the force as the arresting officer or the witness, and so is left the jurisdiction and is not there to testify against the defendant. I don't see how you could arrest somebody with a gun, take a gun off the person walk out of a court. But it's Jamaica and the judges are not all of the judges are clean. Some of them are freaking corrupt. But that's another conversation which we'll have going forward. The reality is that it is the country, the prisons and jails are filled with people who, when accosted, did not turn their guns on the police.
number.
Yeah. Mr. Faulkner, the executive director of JFJ, Michael Jackson, also came out and suggested that she thought it was too high.
Yeah. Government-funded agency, taxpayer-funded agency, as I said earlier, working in tandem with a foreign-funded agency that is determined to undo everything that's happening in Jamaica. We're using foreign money to keep Jamaica a country inundated with crime. By going to Washington, D.C., Carolyn Gomes have been doing it for years to test a lie that Jamaica police are ruthless killers. This has been going on for years. And I'm not even going to mention her name on my program, this one. I'm not going to elevate her because she's insignificant. But this is what they've been doing all along. I'm not going to elevate her on this platform, but that's what they've been doing all along. This is what Terrence Williams started doing with Carolyn Gomes. And now it's a new whatever I'm not even going to talk about what her ranking or her job description is. This is what she's doing now with Faulkner. How is a government-funded agency, INDECOM, working in tandem with a foreign-funded anti-police group is beyond me.
May I read something that the commissioner said in response to her utterance?
Yeah.
And I quote the commissioner. He says, to suggest that fatal shooting numbers can be reduced by anything other than the unwillingness of persons being apprehended to engage in deadly confrontation with members of the security forces is irresponsible, or at best advocating for us to relent in our pursuit. We again reiterate the point that those who seek to kill and maim will not be left free and unobstructed to hold communities at ransom and in constant fear. It means we make no apology to stand between these murdering thugs and the people of this country. He goes on to say it is foolish to believe that criminals who choose to engage the police will not receive a similar response. How do you respond to that?
Well, I do not believe it's a case of one size fits all. I believe in terms of fatal shooting that there ought to be an obligation on the security forces themselves to review the processes. And in many of the cases, in fact, in 2024, 40% of the 189 fatalities occurred under planned police operations. Now, planned police operations, the officers are in control of the entire process. Sorry. The location where they're going, the time they choose to go, how they will access this place, the medical facilities available, the strategies, the obstacles that they'll face. So it's totally under their control.
But can planned police operations not have unplanned circumstances that will lead to things going awry or things not unfolding exactly as you thought?
Indeed.
That could call for the need for...
Yes, we would not deny that.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, the officers, while they have a duty to protect the public, they also have a duty to protect themselves. But we're saying with planned police operations, then, and the number of persons on that planned operation would not likely be below what is required to handle a particular situation. Accordingly, we believe body-worn cameras.
Okay, so, I really want to give this guy some respect. I'm not necessarily somebody who just disrespects people like this. But, this guy's like, I'm really not feeling the need to give this guy any respect. What he's basically saying, people, is that a planned operation, meaning the police are in numbers and they control the scene, that what he's basically saying is that in that type of scenario, a person is less likely to try to engage in a shootout. What I would like to say to Mr. Faulkner, or to point out to Mr. Faulkner, is that ignorance is bliss. And folks, this is what happens when people are given positions without ever having experienced any kind of physical interaction with the discipline they're tasked with investigating. What I mean by that is that here's a man making assessment on law enforcement who has never served in law enforcement. He has no idea. This is why in in the most powerful military in the world, United States military, an officer does not get command until that officer has engaged in or been involved in warfare or been involved in commanding troops. You don't get to command unless you have actually served yourself and seen action. Right? And I'd like to introduce Mr. Faulkner to a very simplistic methodology, to a very simplistic idea of how a caged, cornered animal behaves. When an animal is cornered and that animal is when that animal feels like its life is on the line, it doesn't matter how many people are there, that animal is going to fight like hell to get away. Try cornering an animal and see what happens. So a cornered criminal is not less likely to try to use force against the people who have him cornered. He's more likely to use force. And those scenarios are dangerous scenarios. I could outline case after case after case after case after case after case during my service in law enforcement, right there in Jamaica, where planned operations result in homicide because the criminals did not want to go to jail because they knew it's going to be a long jail time. Excuse me. Hugh Faulkner has no idea what he's talking about.
Would be an essential tool, even for the review of the officers themselves as to the process.
Mr. Faulkner, you investigate every single police shooting.
Yes.
Of the 60 so far, you are questioning how many? When I say questioning, I think you understand. But
yes. Well, of the 59,
yeah.
The INDECOM Act require us to be objective, independent, and impartial. So never, we cannot come into the investigation with any preconceived notion.
No bias.
We do the investigation. At the completion, the Privy Council says your prosecutorial authority is the DPP. We submit the file to the DPP, and then we await a ruling. Now, in
Okay, so then why are you on television? Why are you on television talking about police shooting? My people, I'm asking you to use your head. This is what's going on. Why is he on television talking about shooting when he's done, if he's done his job, because he's collecting a hefty salary, and I'll tell you what his salary is in another iteration of this program. But if he's done his job, why is he on television talking? Why is he on television berating the police? Why is he on television berating the police? He's not the final authority. Their mandate is to collect the evidence of every shooting, not questionable shooting. Every single incident of police use of force, not just with guns, but use of force across the board. That's their mandate. That's what they're tasked with doing. And whatever they find, if there's anything they think they have, they submit it to Paul Llewellyn. Your job is done. You don't get to be on TV self-aggrandizing. You don't get to be on television propaganda, using propaganda. You don't get to be on TV sowing discord in our country. But that's what he's doing. That is what he's doing.
2024, we received roughly 2 rulings per month from the Director of Public Prosecutions. So 24 rulings, 2 per month, 12 months.
So the idea is to malign not just the police, but the premier prosecutorial agency in Jamaica. Folks, a nation divided amongst itself cannot stand. A government divided amongst itself cannot stand. I have never seen anywhere in the world, and I dare any one of you to supply me with facts about a government agency in any country literally spreading propaganda against another government agency, same government agency. Please, I challenge you to tell me of any such case.
Months in the year.
All right.
Bonsoir,
So,
you know,
pretty much done with Mr. Faulkner. Mr. Faulkner has demonstrated that he's Mr. Faulkner Mr. Faulkner has demonstrated that when it comes to incompetence, he takes the cake. Now, my dear people, I want to present you with some facts. One of the most salient points that the people who shout about police fatal shooting don't tell you, I'll tell you about it. They don't tell you how many homicides are committed in our tiny island of 3 million people each year. I'm not going to go way too far back, but folks, they don't tell you how many lives are saved because of police action each year, because that doesn't serve their narrow parochial interest. It doesn't serve the propaganda that they want to put out there, largely on behalf of the opposition party. But I'll tell you, and you could go look it up yourself. But I, Michael Antonio Beckles, I am putting the facts out there so you can see for yourself. All right. Like I said, they will not tell you about the level of unaliving, the level of homicides happening, but I have them here. So I'm going to start at 2009. I don't want to go too far back. Like I said, I don't want to be too long. In 2009, how many people are unalive? So I'm just going to quote you the numbers and tell you, the numbers will tell you how many is unalived in each year. In 2009, 1,680. In 2010, 1,428. In 2011, 1,125. In 2012, 1,097. In 2013, 1,200. In 2014, 1,192. In 2015, 1,450. In 2016, 1,350. In 2017, 1,616. In 2018, 1,287. In 2019, 1,339. In 2020, 1,474. In 2021, 1,474. In 2022, 1,508. And in 2023, thank God, 1,060. Folks, we're talking about 400, 500, 600 more Jamaicans unalived than last year. Folks, in 1991, when I left law enforcement in Jamaica, I ain't going to tell you a lie. We didn't play with criminals. They ran away to the United States. We were having, you could look for yourself. In 1991, 500 had homicides annually. And I thought, this is too high. I thought the police department wasn't doing enough. I thought the government wasn't doing enough. And so, one of the reasons, it was one of the reasons why I departed. But I want to bring something to your attention. You know, all of the lies and the propaganda and the self-aggrandizing and the showboating. In between 2009 and 2023, I've not included 2024 data into this. 20,129 people have been unalived that we know of. And this does not include people who were shot and died later. Those are not included in these statistics. Yeah. Between 2017 and 2021, the homicide rate per 100,000 has been 49.746. Now, I want to just point out one other fact to you. The United Nations considers homicide rates of 10 per 100,000 to be an epidemic. And I gave you numbers between 2017 and 2021. I could give you any period I select. I chose that period. The homicide rate in Jamaica is 49.76. That's almost 5 times the standard that the United Nations considers an epidemic crime statistic. By that standard alone, Jamaica is past, way past epidemic. It's way past pandemic. We have a crisis of violent unaliving of Jamaicans. That's what we have. So, every effort, if any at all, ought to be centered on preserving the lives of innocent Jamaicans who are being unalived. Our focus must be on protecting the lives of the innocent. As long as we listen to fools like Hugh Faulkner, as long as we listen to people like the foreign-funded, anti-police, anti-Jamaica reactionary JFJ, we will continue to see these astronomical homicide rates. Folks, let me be clear. Contrary to what you're told, that the violent crimes being experienced in Jamaica is a factor of poverty, it's not true. It's not true. Poor Jamaican people get up and go to work every single day. Yeah? They work at all types of jobs. They work in fast food establishments. They work in the homes of other Jamaicans. They work doing all, you know, they work in all types of jobs. I remember I was in Jamaica recently and I stopped. I was at I was spending some time with my family on a beach and I was talking to a lady. I went to use the ablution area and I was talking to a lady. It was Christmas time, 2 Christmases ago. And I saw a lady. I said, "Hey, mommy, what's going on?" And she said, "Well, my son, everything's hard." And I thought, here is a lady who left her home to sit by an ablution area. Yeah. And she would help you with anything you wanted. And she didn't ask you for nothing. I swear. Tears almost left my eyes. I'm not a rich person, but I gave her a couple $1,000 because I thought it was the right thing to do. Yeah. It was the right thing to do. So poverty is not the driver of crime. I come from poverty. Most police officers come from poverty. We know poverty. Most police officers chose to become police officers because they want to belong to something bigger than themselves. The idea that poverty is a driver of crime in Jamaica is balderdash. It's false. It's not true. The people who pick up guns and decide to commit all kinds of crimes, violent crimes, just so they can floss, drink champagne and drink all kinds of expensive liquor, drive expensive cars, ride expensive motorcycles, and floss with all kinds of illegal weapons, they're not poor people. Poor people get up and go to work and try to make a living. And they try to take care of their families. You are being bamboozled with false information that make you think that it's poor people who are important. Now you tell me, what poor person is importing guns into our country and distributing them, selling them? Do you believe that? No. Folks, I ask you to follow this channel. I ask you to subscribe to this channel. Here we tell you the truth. We're not out looking for fame. We're not out looking for nothing. We're not looking for clout. But we ask you to follow this channel. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. You don't have to agree with us. We like the interaction. Give us a like if you like the channel. Subscribe and share the channel because the algorithms depend on that. Thank you. Now, the final thing I'm going to say is that there are a whole lot of people out there who are presenting you with false information on this crime issue. Crime is something that impoverishes all of us. The only people who benefit from crime are the perpetrators of crime and the people there around them. And that's a small percentage of who Jamaicans are. It's a very small percentage of Jamaicans. Don't be fooled. It's not every Jamaican. It's a small percentage. We have to stamp this out. But more than anything, we have to make a call to the Prime Minister's office. You have to call your members of parliament and tell them to get INDECOM to do what INDECOM is supposed to do and to get off television and stop destabilizing our country. It's not hard to destabilize Jamaica. It's a small country. And as long as INDECOM is allowing itself to be used by Jamaicans for justice, our country will continue to be destabilized. And that only serves the opposition party that doesn't care about what Jamaica look like as long as they're in power, as long as they have their hands and the public purse, as long as they could siphon off taxpayers' money. That's all they care about. When they were in power last time, Peter Bunting, the Minister of National Security, said that Jamaica needed divine intervention. No, God has already empowered us to do for ourselves. God is not going to intervene to stop crime in Jamaica. God has never intervened to stop anything because he gave us free will. So my people, open your eyes and recognize that what they're telling you are lies. This being the deep dive. I'll talk to you tomorrow.